Hey guys, this is a really long story, but I promise if you stick with me through the end, there's going to be a lot of nuggets. I think there's a lot of great information that make the story the story. Back in July, Delafield had a block party. My wife and son and I went, and we're hanging out. So, picture a town of 8,000 people, block party, several hundred people there. There are bands playing, everyone's drinking, everyone's having a good time. There's not a lot of vehicle traffic on the road, right? A lot of pedestrian traffic. So, one of my coaching clients, he and his team were manning one of the beer tents. So he said, "Hey, come by and just, have a beer." So we went by, we had a beer, we hung out, and we were leaving like 8 o'clock at night. And in my typical dial-in fashion, I don't necessarily blend in into Delafield, right? So I'm in like yellow banana, like short swim trunk shorts. I got my fluorescent fanny pack on and a tank top and flip flops. And everyone else there does not look like me. Let's just leave it that, right? So we're walking, and as we're crossing the street and kind of moving over to the sidewalk, this vehicle pits up next to me. He turns his lights on, and he's like, "You, come here." And at first, I'm just like taken aback, right? And I'm like, and he's like, "Yeah, you, come here." So I walk up. He's obviously triggered. I'm like initially just going into this like inner child, like not good enough, not worthy. I'm also like hinge on some stories like I'm a big brown man in a predominantly white community, right? There's an angry cop. This could not go very, very well. So I kind of step back to where he can see my entire body. And we just have this dialogue, and he's still escalated. So we go on, and I'm a little triggered by it. And so we end up going home. The next day, I'm sitting out back and just hanging out, having coffee, and my wife and I are talking about it. And I make the decision that I'm going to reach out to the chief. So I reach out to the chief on Monday morning. I explain to him what was going on. My 2 point of views were simply this. Number one, I'm a member of the community. I don't think it's cool to speak to the member of communities like that, to treat them like that. Several things actually. My son is there, and I don't want my son to have this like scarred perception of what law enforcement is like, right? And as a brown man in America, given the climate of police force and ethnic communities, that didn't just sit well with me, right? So I went down, I sat with him, we kind of just talked it out, and then he says, "Well, do you want to file a complaint?" And I said, "No, I just love to have an opportunity to sit and talk with the officer." Well, long story short, he reviews the tape where he can only get audio of it, not video, because of the way that the car was pitted. And he came back and he said, "Listen, I don't think the officer did anything wrong." He said, "I think it was just a misunderstanding." And so my thought pattern was, okay, that's how we have a lot of like bad situations, misunderstandings. So I let it go for a minute, and then the officer, Landon, actually reached out to me on Facebook and said, "Hey, I was the officer involved in the incident with you. I'd love to chat." We sat down on chat, and kind of fast forward. He was having a bad day. He was having a stressful day. I was married to some stories of my own. It just made for the perfect storm. And it turns out that he's absolute phenomenal guy, like not what I was thinking, right? And I was not what he was thinking. And so fast forward, I literally went over and met his new daughter yesterday. He and his wife just had a new baby girl. She's like a month old, Evelyn. I sat down and had coffee and hung out with them. I coached him for about 6 weeks. And then that has also turned into, he's bringing me into the Delafield Police Department during their in-service to do a workshop around breathwork and meditation to help bring stress and anxiety down.